Welcome to Ruger Tech Tips. We're going to look at the single action revolver. Going to go through disassembly with this. This will cover the Blackhawk, the Bisley models, Vaqueros, all of the single action models with the exception of the Bearcat. And we're going to go through complete disassembly and breaking down just like it is in the owner's manual. Step one is you want to make sure that the revolver that you're working on is completely unloaded. So I'll point this in a safe direction, open the loading gate, and look at each and every chamber to make sure it's free of any live ammunition and that there's no live ammunition in the work area. For tools that you need to do this, a soft-faced hammer, a screwdriver of the correct size for the screws, a brass punch, a 1/16 punch, a 7/64 Allen wrench for the Bisley model, and some type of disassembly pin. A finishing nail would work fine for that. And of course, a pair of safety glasses. So to begin with, I'm going to swing the gate open and press my release button and take the cylinder out and remove that from the pistol. And I want to re-engage the base pin and put that back inside the frame to disassemble this. Going to remove the grips, single screw for this. And you can just set the grips to one side. You're going to take the revolver and bring the hammer to a fully cocked position, and there's a strut that goes through the spring, and that's going to expose a hole, and inside the hole you insert your disassembly pin. If you have a model that contains an internal lock, it's the same setup, but when you cock this back just above the lock, you'll see the same hole. Put the disassembly pin in there, release the trigger, let the hammer go forward. Now that disassembly pin is holding all the tension of our mainspring, so that's captured there. I'm going to start by removing, there's 5 screws in the revolver, 2 to the rear and 3 on the bottom. The 2 screws at the rear, these 2 screws are identical. They are the same screw. So I'm just going to pop those out first. Does not matter if you mix these 2 screws with each other. That's not a problem at all. If you have a Bisley model, you'll need a 7/64 Allen wrench for both removing and installing the rearmost screws. Next, we have 2 screws that go through the rear of the frame. These 2 screws can be different and will be different. One side is longer and will hold the hammer pivot pin, and until you remove those, you don't know which screw that is. So you want to keep track of whichever side the longer screw is. Make sure you put that in the same hole when you reassemble. So on this one, that's the shorter screw is on the ball side, and the long screw will be on the gate side. So I'll just keep track of that. And there's our longer screw. And then that intersects our hammer pivot pin, so we want to keep track of which side that goes in. Last screw is the one in the front. This is the shortest of all the screws, so that's easy to know which hole that goes in. Set that to one side. So now you're simply just going to separate your 2 halves. Be careful because there is a spring and plunger that will come out. That is for the cylinder latch. It goes into the grip frame, and you can get your mainspring assembly comes out. There's a Paul spring and plunger to the rear. That you can take out so you do not lose it. Get your 1/16 punch, and we have a spring that drives the gate. And I'm going to put my 1/16 punch underneath that gate, underneath the spring, just to keep the spring down. And then I can use a soft punch, and I'm going to start that cross pin out from the opposite side. And I'm just going to give this a couple of taps, and you're just going to start that out. Just start it, then take your 1/16 punch out, and that'll come out the rest of the way. Then you can push through your hammer pivot pin, and that'll go straight on through, and remove your hammer pivot. Now I can take all of my action out. I can lift up and get my trigger with a transfer bar located on it. I can get out the hammer with the pawl on that. If I lift up on my spring, I will also get the cylinder latch will come out at the same time. So I got the cylinder latch, there's our gate spring, and lastly, I can take the gate out. That is completely disassembled. Congratulations, you have field stripped your Ruger Single Action Revolver. Thanks for watching this Ruger Tech Tip.